We, in India, have yet to see aggression on our territory vacated after so many decades. Equally, terrorism has been overlooked when convenient. In our own continent, international law has been disregarded with significant consequences. Even on a question like democracy and military rule, different standards have been applied to our neighbours in the East and our neighbour in the West. It is not my case that principles are dispensable or that we must be utterly into realpolitik, but the agenda can no longer be set by some, only to be observed by the rest. This applies to passing judgment on and interfering in the domestic politics of others as well. Today, there is much talk about the world order unraveling. The fact is that the consensus which underpinned it has done so well before. There are north-south contradictions as much as there is an east-west divide. In fact, even these broad characterizations are no longer tenable in an era of sharper nationalism. Both the economic and political logic of an earlier era needs refreshing. Much of the architecture will undoubtedly continue because we are too deeply invested in it. But some of it, certainly, perhaps aspects that are critical and sensitive, will be more nationally driven. We are truly entering a time of multipolarity and rebalancing. The sooner we come to terms with this reality, the better for all of us. For many years, large sections of the global intelligentsia have been in denial about the impact of the current model of globalized trade on societies and economies. Openness and interlinkages were lauded as values in themselves, deliberately ignoring that free trade was increasingly less and less fair trade. The pervasiveness of non-market factors in global manufacturing has fundamentally altered the very structures on which global consensus was built. The perception grew that the trading system has been gamed for the benefit of a few. It was therefore no surprise, except for those in denial, that there would be a political backlash. Some of it is voiced in terms of stagnating quality of life, some in employment challenges, and the rest in a frustration of an inability to compete against state support and subsidies. It was easy to give a cultural twist to these insecurities as well. So whether we go back to the Brexit, look at the political happenings in many other nations, including yours, or now consider the return of the Trump administration, let us appreciate that these consequences actually have causes. India-EU relationship can be an important stabilizing factor. India is certainly cognizant of the greater strategic awakening of Europe in the last few years. That too can serve as a driver of deeper engagement. We already see that happening, for example, in closer defense and security and technology cooperation. The bottom line is that our India-EU, that is, our relationship is more important than ever before. So how do we make this contemporary template work better for both of us? To a great extent, the answer lies in ensuring that the established processes, platforms, and mechanisms deliver effectively. In recent years, there has been a more intensive engagement with the European Commission. We expect that to be even more in the coming days, in fact, very soon. Our maritime security and defense cooperation has also increased, collectively or with individual EU members. The Indo-Pacific strategy and global gateway are certainly steps in the right direction. On the FTA, I think it is really time we get along with it. We established the Trade and Technology Council to deal with control technologies and digital transactions. Our interactions today extend from disaster resilience and clean technologies to sustainable urbanization and infrastructure development. The European Union, I remind you, is India's largest economic partner. But beyond resources and technology, it is also valued for its best practices. In diplomatic platforms, we have also built a tradition of cooperation. I would single out the G20 in particular. There is also much that is happening bilaterally with EU nations. I draw your attention to the importance of nurturing and attracting talent in view of its economic relevance. One particular initiative that I believe merits your attention is the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. It has admittedly been slowed by the developments in the Middle East from October 2023. However, some initial steps have indeed commenced between India and Gulf nations. The game-changing nature of this enterprise needs to be appreciated, not just between India and Europe as its two ends. Bear in mind that we in India are simultaneously seeking to build land connectivity eastwards through Southeast Asia. Put together, this is actually an Atlantic to Pacific endeavor. We can all feel intuitively that the world is on the cusp of a very big change. Politics is only the tip of the iceberg. Whether it is energy or connectivity, mobility or technology, major shifts await us. After all, we are entering the era of AI and EV, of drones and space, of green hydrogen and SMRs, and many more things besides. A deeper India-EU collaboration is clearly to our mutual benefit. It cannot happen by itself. It needs proponents, it needs advocates, and I hope that your gathering at this time will increase that number and make this case more energetically and effectively in Europe as much as in India.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.